I just finished playing Silk Song, and I have so many feelings, so I'm gonna craft about it. Hello, I'm Miss Twisted, you can call me Charlotte. I do costumes, crafting, and other weird and whimsical stuff. And I've already made Hornet, so I'm gonna make my favorite tall bug lady Shakra. And when I say tall, I mean tall. The problem is, I am not. So we're gonna have to employ some cheat methods here. I don't feel like wearing stilts, but I do have some very high heels that'll give me like my first boost of height. Then my plan is to essentially make her shoulders start here. So her bobblehead's gonna be like somewhere floating above my head, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, trust the process with me here. So my head's gonna be hidden somewhere in her torso. We're gonna have some high heels. We're gonna have those gold carapace pieces. Carapaces. A big old bony head with some antenna, her classic arm rings, and basically like a black bodysuit through the rest of it. On paper, not a super complicated costume, but I have underestimated this so many times before. I'm just gonna see how we go. Okay, so, mannequin, wire mesh. We're gonna start with this. I have a vague plan. We're gonna see if it works. Oh, this is gonna be a pain in the butt, isn't it? Okay, welcome to my floor. We're cutting this on the floor because this stuff is already pissing me off. And we haven't started yet. Okay, I'm just seeing if I can kind of flatten it a little bit so it's not so annoying. We're gonna use the wire mesh to make like a sculpted form of the mannequin, at least in the top half above my shoulders, so that like it kind of holds the shoulder shape. Why aren't you taking any form? I thought this would be really easy because it's wire, right? You could just bend it. Okay, this is fine. Don't get stuck to my backdrop, please. I'm thinking this might not be the best way to do this. Okay, plan B. Oh, it's stuck to the mannequin. Okay, plan B. I have this scrap piece of EVA foam. If I like heat this, it'll kind of mold it to that shape. And if it needs reinforcement, I've got some warbler I can chuck over it. The main thing is that the shoulders need to be relatively sturdy because they're at the top. Everything else from there down kind of doesn't have to be. It's going to be like on my body, but this is going to be like floating up here. So let's see. So I'm going to blast this EVA foam with a heat gun before I put the wobbler over the top, just so hopefully the whole thing holds its shape a little bit better than the wire mesh did. Okay, it looks like nothing right now, but trust the process with me because a strong foundation is going to make or break this costume. So if I can take this off. Can you see the vision? On the plus side, I was thinking I would need to buy some sort of helmet to mount this to get it sitting on my head, but I actually think it's going to be alright as is. On the negative side, I realize this means her shoulders are going to start like here, but all that is a problem for future Charlotte. Let's just get a torso vaguely functioning first. I immediately changed my mind. We are going to do Chakra's head first. So for that, I've got these really crappy foam mats. I usually like to use the good EVA foam, but for this one, I don't think it matters too much. It's just going to be like a quick, scrappy, fun project. So we've got two identical halves, and I'm just sort of guesstimating the shape of Chakra's head before I cut these out. The edge that's forming the middle of Chakra's face is cut on like a 45-degree angle. That's going to make it easier for me to glue together later. To glue these halves together, we're using contact adhesive. So I'm doing this in this little patch of concrete at the front of my garage, just for better ventilation. But before I put these two halves together, I am just going to run my heat gun over them. It's going to soften up the EVA foam a little bit and means that like as I start to glue these two halves together, I can also curve them a little bit. Unfortunately, I'm already regretting using the cheap EVA foam mats instead of the specialized EVA foam like what you can get from Lumen's workshop, because this stuff is just not made to take a lot of like heat forming and shaping very well. We're going to cut some wedges at the top here, as well as cutting out some eye holes. Not that I'm going to need them to see out of, but I think it still adds to the look. Now back out to my concrete garage floor to apply some more contact adhesive. The wedges here are designed to basically help me brute force some more curve into this face. It's not my neatest seams ever, so I'm just gonna like shove some foam clay into that seam to help smooth it over just a little bit. And once the foam clay is fully dry, I can just gradually start to apply layers and layers of primer to try and smooth this thing out. While the head was drying from the priming layers, I wanted to figure out the antenna, and it was really important to me to keep like her general silhouette. So I wanted to make sure I could keep that like elevated S-shape antenna that she's got going on. And I was thinking like armature wire would help keep that shape, but it looks kind of bad. At this point, my brain instantly went to this stuff here. Basically, Lumen's Workshop sells EVA foam dowels in a bunch of different shapes. I know you guys have heard me sing the praises of Lumen's Workshop before. Too bad you're gonna hear me say it again, because this stuff is a game changer. It's so useful. This stuff is, of course, like a circular tube. I suppose that makes it a cylinder. There's loads of different shapes and sizes. This stuff is great for putting like trim on armor or props. Seriously, I do recommend it. But this stuff here is obviously going to be the best bet for the antenna. But I still want to put some armature wire in here to make sure that it can like be freestanding and it's not just gonna like start sagging down over time. So my plan is to use a hobby knife and cut a slit down the center of each dowel, not cutting all the way through. That way I can shove a little tiny bit of hot glue in there and then press an armature wire into that slit. This was extremely fiddly and I'm 100% sure there's probably better, more efficient ways to do this, but whatever they are, I don't know. Someone tell me in the comments if you got some better ideas. I'm rounding off the end with some scissors and this is pretty much it. They're gonna get a quick layer of black Plastidip to seal in the foam and these are ready to rumble. Next up, we need to give my bug gal some accessories, and for that, we've got her signature rings and her bag of maps. And for the rings, it almost feels like cheating, but I'm just gonna like take a 3D model and 3D print it. I don't even need to like find a 3D model. There's just like a preloaded shape for this in Tinkercad because it's literally a donut shape. I will admit guys, I completely forgot about her map bag until I was well into this project, and I really didn't want to have to buy more red fabric. Luckily, I have a decent amount of scrap fabric of this stuff, which is a dyed red wool from my Hornet cosplay. How's that for a good coincidence? So I guesstimated the bag shape onto some cardboard, cut out 2 pieces in this shape and folded them down the center. This is going to form my structure. I'm going to cut this shape out of 2 pieces of this wool, sew them together around the outside. This was all very standard stuff, and then I made the stupidest rookie error and glued the cardboard down before I turned this thing inside out, thinking that I could turn it inside out while the cardboard was attached. I don't know what was going through my brain. Sometimes the brain cells are just not firing. It doesn't matter how much experience you have. Luckily, it's only hot glued down, so I can angrily rip this off, ripping the cardboard in half while I go, angrily turn it inside out, and then angrily re-glue the cardboard in, but this time using a fabric glue instead, so I've got a bit more working time. Because I kinda have to be able to like shimmy it into the fabric, which was really finicky, so salt in the wound after being so frustrated with myself. But that cardboard really does help give this some great structure, and then once I folded in the top here and added in a little strap with whatever leftover wool I had, I was pretty happy with it. The maps to fill this quiver were way easier. It's literally just rolled up bits of brown paper that I stuck in with some hot glue and masking tape. Good morning, my loves. Welcome to day 2. Day 1, we made some pretty good progress. We've got the antenna pretty much ready to rumble and get stuck onto the mask. The mask itself is outside drying. I've got a base layer of like a white spray paint on there. I've got my quiver of maps, looking like a quiver of maps. My shoulder hat piece is just sitting on there on standby, and my rings are now fully glued together, so they're looking pretty good. Pushanka. Is that her pose? Is that the right expression? Pushanka? That sounds right.
Pushanka. 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 Pushanka.
So while the rest of my garage is out of action, I'm just gonna sit on my sad slab of concrete near the entrance to sand these. And by sand, I mean I'm gonna sand off the bare minimum to get the rough edges done. Next up, it is a priming layer, and for this I've got an acrylic spray-on primer. This is supposed to be pretty good for 3D prints. I had this big brain moment to blue tack them to this cardboard roll. That way I can kind of like prime all the way around them to get all the surfaces. Sadly, it was back onto the floor for the gold layer though, just because it seemed to stick too much to the blue tack. While my rings are drying, we can go back to Shakra's head to apply like a sort of sandy off-white color. I just didn't like the stark white. It wasn't quite giving me the vibe. The bone sort of color makes me think of like bug shells. A smidge of gray and black around the eyes just to make them pop, and then just chucking a bit of black paper behind them to black them out. The antenna were applied with full feral crafting mode activated. Just a ton of hot glue around here, and then a little bit of EVA foam scraps just to kind of like reinforce it in place. Okay, Shakra's head is pretty much ready to rumble. It's got a couple of sprays of like a semi-gloss varnish just to protect the paintwork a bit, and I'm holding it up just with a cardboard tube. This, I think, actually just might be the other half of the tube I'm using for the rings, but I'm thinking if I can mount it so it's attached like at the back of the head here, it can kind of wobble around a little bit, you know? And if I bend down, maybe I can get it to do kind of like this, where like just gravity holds it outwards. You know how when Shakra bends down to Hornet because Hornet's short? That's the vision. I did something similar for a different costume a couple of years ago, so I'm actually gonna go watch my old video just to remind myself exactly how that worked. So I just finished watching my old video. It was not helpful at all. Of course, I was just as much of a feral crafter back then as I am now, so I don't know why I expected any different. I also changed because, well, Melbourne's officially had our 1 week of designated actually nice weather that is between the freezing cold and the boiling hot. So yeah. Anywho, we're gonna do this the dumb way. I'm gonna hot glue on the end of that and stick like a piece of fabric just right on there. This is not going to be seen at the back, so I don't care how stupid this looks. Hot glue on there. I probably should have used my fabric glue for this actually, but that's fine. Alright, that fabric is pretty much glued all the way up, except for like a couple of millimeters at the top here, so that the fabric can still like wobble around. Hopefully that puts you guys high enough, but can you kind of see the vision now? And then like if I want to bend down to like a Hornet cosplayer, right? Does that work? I don't imagine people are gonna see me from the right angle to see the back of this mask, but just in case, we are gonna slap a bit of foam into the back of the mask here just to fill out that space. Just in case from the wrong angle, it doesn't look like there's just an empty mask hanging around on top of my head. For the same reason, we're gonna cover the back of the cardboard tube with some more of that stretchy black fabric. With that done, we need to attach our floating head to this shoulder piece. In case you haven't picked up, this project is even more feral and scrappy than usual, so surprise, surprise, it's just a ton of hot glue on some EVA foam. To keep this very fashionable hat on my head, I've threaded some elastic like down through some of the warbler where I've cut a slit, and that's just gonna tie under my chin, which definitely helps a little bit, but it's still gonna need a bit of reinforcement to hold it up there. Honestly, kinda didn't expect the chin strap to work anyway, but it was worth a shot. Alright folks, I think I've got a game plan here. This is a really heavy duty piece of elastic sewn to some heavy duty Velcro, basically a waistband that I've made for a previous ball gown that just had to hold like a lot of weight on the skirt. And I've sewn that to this extra piece of elastic that basically goes up my spine and is hot glued into here. Which doesn't sound like it would be strong enough, but it really is because that hot glue is kind of like fused through the elastic, if that makes sense. So this goes on with the chin strap, and then I reach behind here, I find the waistband, pull it round, nice and tight, do that up. So the chin strap holds it to my head steady so I can move around, and the extra bit of elastic at the back means that when I do this, it takes the strain at the back and doesn't fall forwards. So I think theoretically, I'll be able to move around pretty comfortably like this. And it doesn't matter if it looks silly because you're not gonna see any of this. The rings are also done. These took around 3 or 4 layers of gold and then a little bit of semi-gloss varnish to protect the paint, and we're looking pretty good. As long as you don't look at them any closer than this, because then you'll see the layer lines, but don't worry about it. Good morning, my darlings. Day 3, I think we need to give us some shoulders. So for that, I've got some upholstery foam. I'm just gonna cut a couple of bits out and start to chop them into vaguely spherical shapes and glue them on. We're gonna keep it that simple. Upholstery foam's pretty easy to just start hacking into with some scissors to sculpt. Just make sure it's not your good sewing scissors. I am telling you that from experience. I've made that mistake before. To get these attached, I cut out a wedge at the center of them, kind of like a Pac-Man shape. And holy cow, you guys, I am going through so many hot glue sticks in this project. With the shoulders in place, I added some strips of batting or wadding, basically just like some slightly puffy fabric that just gives everything a bit of soft shape. That's going down the front to turn this from being like just a tube to more of a neck shape. And we're stretching this over the shoulders as well. My hope is that once I start applying fabric to all this, it'll just help soften out the shapes and make everything look less lumpy. Okay, so most of her body besides the gold carapace parts are black. So I have just some plain black stretchy jersey stuff. And my thought is to kind of like just kind of drape it on here and cut out a pattern so that there's like just two pieces front and back. This longer bit of fabric needs to come down like past here, which means I'm going to need to have two areas here where I have like black mesh so that I can still see out of it. Running on no plans, just vibes as usual. I'm sort of cutting off like so that the seam would run directly down the side of the shoulders. And that's all getting stretched and hot glued into place. Hot gluing fabric together is usually a big no-no, but in this case, none of this is going to come off or on or really take a lot of strain, so I don't feel too bad about it. As silly as this bit looks, my goal is to stretch this over my face so I can work out exactly where the holes need to be for my eyes. I have no idea where my tailor's chalk is, but I'm going to use some light colored eyeshadow to basically mark where my eye is. This is definitely a waste of eyeshadow instead of just looking for my tailor's chalk, but I regret nothing. Please tell me I'm not the only one immature enough to think this looks like tiny little nips. Now that the scissors are safely away from my face, I'm just going to cut out holes where the eyes are going to go. I'm going to finish this off by adding some fabric to that back and an extra piece of EVA foam basically right down the middle. That's just going to help keep the fabric away from my nose to help me breathe better. And with a quick test drive, so far so good. So to cover these eye holes, I've got this stuff here, which is the mesh that you use for cross-stitching, I believe, and the vision out of it is actually pretty decent, like it's not bad. So I'm literally just gonna like slap that right there. I tried using the white version of this for my previous project and it just didn't work. It's amazing how much the color makes a difference here. We've got some extra elastic at the front here just to help hold this down as I'm trying it on. This was the moment where I started to think, hey, maybe this might actually work. Like it still looks awkward, but you can kind of see the idea coming through. Okay, I need to admit here that I'm not 100% sure exactly how that is going to blend in with the rest of my body, but I think I'm going to move on to the Carapace pieces and come back to that because these will at least help me give like a structure, and then I've got like this piece and this piece so I know what the gap looks like between them. I hope that makes sense. Anywho, I've got this craft foam, which I'm going to use for the structure because I'm thinking, right, if I have like a cutout that kind of goes around my body and then up here and then down, it'll kind of look like it's sitting at her collarbones. Now she's kind of yellowy and I have this really awesome gold vinyl from ages ago. This was from Lumen's workshop, but it's got, I wonder if I can get that to focus if I hide my head, like a really cool texture to it, which I think kind of makes it look like a cross between something organic and armor, which I think kind of works for the buggy carapace. So this is just here to give structure to this. All of this project has been guesswork so far, and this is going to be no exception to that. I'm going to guesstimate this rough pointed shape for a panel. Honestly, a pretty good guess on the shape. Quick side quest for a slap together tail. It's some foam with some armature wire stuck together with masking tape. Don't even worry about how ugly this looks because the whole thing's going to get covered in gold vinyl on the top anyway. Once that's secured down with some more hot glue, I'm just going to cut off the excess on the side here, taking off that masking tape excess as I go as well. I'm a little worried about how much vinyl I've got, so the bottom here that's barely going to be seen, I'm just going to spray paint gold. Okay, so welcome to the floor because I realize I don't have like heaps of this stuff, right? So I need to make sure I've got enough for this project. I've already cut out the tail piece. These are my like chest carapace pieces, which are probably the most important ones. If I shove this into a corner here, like that, right? That's enough to cover those pieces. And then I have at least one big area here to make a big front area of the skirt. While we're chilling on the floor, I'm going to hot glue these straight to the back of the vinyl just to keep them in place while I cut out the shapes I need. And since I seem to have the spine of an 80-year-old, I am getting up back to the table as soon as I've got these pieces small enough to fit on there. The glue is going to hold these folds in place as well, but just till I can get them through a sewing machine. You guys see this? That dent right in the middle of the foam? That's because I accidentally rolled over this piece with my office chair while I was working on the other piece. That's why we don't craft on the floor. That and the back problems. Once we've got all of these pieces folded over looking nice and clean, we're gonna run this through my sewing machine just with a straight top stitch. Just because this project is extra scrappy and feral doesn't mean I can't have some pride in the finishing touches. With the foam, glue and vinyl, I'm actually impressed my sewing machine got through this so easily. I didn't trust it to get through a double layer of that, so we're just hot gluing these two together. Okay, so I've been making this lovely big chest panel here, right? With the purpose of wrapping it round like this, which is not terrible, right? But the problem is that it's all very tubular. Like the shape is very straight up and down because I've made it out of all these big flat panels. And like Shakra is chakra shaped. She's got like this really bulbous torso. Bulbous feels like a weird word to use. Anyway, round torso. This is not round. And I'm a seasoned cosplayer. That's a rookie mistake. I know how shapes work. I really don't want to like use different fabric or make an entire new like foam piece. So my goal now is to try and like figure out where to put some darts and bring this in to try and make it more round. Side note, I'm crafting over here, but I've got Shakra sitting up here, so now I've kind of got like an audience while I craft. I did discover from this that the hot glue does seem to take off that gold foiling, so that basically means I'm gonna have to be extra careful not to put that hot glue anywhere that's gonna be visible. For the game plan, this larger middle piece I'm cutting in half with a slight curve in a very similar shape to how I did for Shakra's face. I lost the footage for it, but I zigzagged these two pieces together so you can kind of see it still creates that curve without the glue. Okay, I think that's definitely helped with the shape. It just looks a little bit more rounded. I'm not going to get it super snatched around the middle because I don't want to break my ribs trying to snatch my waist in that tiny. Shakra is a cartoon bug. I have internal organs to worry about. The skirt panel was easy as pie. I'm guesstimating a rough circular shape, folding over the edges and sewing those down. I've got some leftover stretchy stuff from an Angel cosplay earlier this year, so that's getting glued and sewn into place, basically forming a band around my back to hold this thing to my chest. I only have the glue footage, but trust me, I sewed this in place too. I did not trust just the glue alone to hold this thing to me. It's called fashion, look it up. So as you can see, the shape's looking pretty good. I've just chucked a little bit of elastic that goes from here around there to hold it as high as possible under my arms. I've got two more pieces of this gold stuff here, one of which I've literally just sewn like a panel onto some more of that stretchy fabric. That's gonna go around my waist as like a loincloth skirt type thing. And with the skirt piece on, the shape's looking pretty decent. Okay, I'm gonna attach this last piece to my butt here, along with the tail, and then we're gonna paint it all because it's right now entirely the wrong shade. This is kind of the only footage I had of the back of the costume. Let's be honest, it just wasn't the focus for me. This is a brown and gold acrylic paint mixed with a fabric medium just to deepen up the color of that gold. So I'm basically just slathering on the entire thing and then kind of brushing off the excess. Again, there's probably better ways to do this, but I wanted to use up what I had around the house. My friends, welcome to day 5. I kind of skipped day 4. Day 4 was actually the painting that you just saw, but it was kind of like a half day. I had things like errands and groceries and chores, so I just didn't really get much progress on this. The painting on the Carapace has all dried and it's definitely looking like a more deep, rich gold color, which I'm definitely into. I want to bring that out a little bit more with some spray painting outside today, but before I do that, I gotta decorate some boots. These monstrosities I pretty much only wear for costumes when I need to be exceptionally tall, and Shakra is definitely one of those. I think the only real change is covering the laces at the front. I just kind of want to add to the illusion that this might just be part of her really long leg rather than Shakra wearing some very sexy boots. My plan for that is this. It's literally a piece of craft foam that I've hit with a heat gun to curve it slightly, and I'm literally just gonna like glue this straight over the top. And I'm sorry, you guys are not going to get good footage of this because I want to glue those on while I'm wearing it to make sure that like everything's sitting as it will when it's on my foot. I'm using hot glue for this because I've done this before and it comes off pretty easily when you're finished with it and want to use the boots for something else. Guys, I gotta be honest, I think it kind of sucks. I just don't think it looks that good. I need something that's going to cover it a little bit more. Alternative plan, some more of that stretchy jersey I was using before, and I think I'm just gonna like straight up create like a lazy man's boot cover by just gluing this over the top. The fabric can take a lot more stretch and flex than the foam can, so I wasn't that concerned about wearing these as I applied them. Seriously, there are so many better ways to do boot covers than this. I will definitely put up some recommendations for you guys if you're looking to make boot covers properly. I'm sorry if it's upsetting to see me like deface a really good pair of heels, but these are about 15 years old and I've been gluing stuff to them for the last 5 at least, so they're serving their purpose. A light spritz of a yellow gold for my skirt pieces and carapace. Back to my rings for a moment, I'm sewing together a tube of black fabric for each wrist, basically just to make some very simple cuffs. This scrap of foam is going under the cuff to protect my wrist because I'm about to do something kind of stupid. I'm using hot glue to glue the rings to the cuff. Seriously, there's no reason why I needed to use hot glue here. I think at this stage, it's like I'm just addicted to the hot glue. This should have been a fabric glue moment, but you know what? I regret nothing. Basically, this should stop the rings from slipping up and down my wrist as I wear them. But yeah, I am still reinforcing this with a bit of gold thread to tie them in. One last little bit of shading on all of my gold pieces, basically using a brown and a black mixed together to create those really bold outlines and an extra bit of shading around the edges to try and emphasize the roundness. At this point, pretty much everything is done. The only real gap in this project, quite literally, is between these shoulders up here and my shoulders. So we kind of need like some sort of sleeve that streamlines that so it's just one long arm. We are cutting the last of my stretchy black fabric into 4 pieces of like a half sleeve shape. We're sewing 2 pieces together along that curved edge, and with the other side being left open, that can kind of like just stretch over the existing shoulder. We're gluing this down with, you guessed it, some more hot glue. Are you guys getting sick of hot glue yet? I'm getting sick of saying it, to be honest. Okay, it's the next day, so the sleeves are sewn, and with that, I've got to try everything on and see if it all works together, and if it does, well folks, we got ourselves a 5-day little scrappy project done and dusted. Just before we do any kind of reveal, I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for watching. I know this video and the last one have been like smaller, scrappy, experimental projects. That's mostly because I'm actually in the process of moving house and it is a big move this time. So like a lot of my stuff is just already packed up. But the good news is, hopefully next time I do a video, it's going to be a whole new location with a bit more space to work at, maybe a bit more streamlined, who knows. But anyway, let's do it. This was one of the moments putting this all on that I lamented, as per usual, the fact that I choose to make ridiculously large projects while working in a very small office space. It's kind of one of the reasons why we're moving house. It's also why I filmed these bits in portrait, like I just can't fit everything in. Shakra's head is literally caressing the ceiling in this. But hey, so worth it. I mean, look at this. It's so ridiculous. It's a little bit awkward, but the illusion is definitely there. I took this outside for a spin so you can get the height without me scraping against the ceiling, and you can see I added a tiny bit more shading around the waist too. The gravel driveway and the garage door doesn't make for the most picturesque background for Shakra, but look, it's just gonna have to do. I can barely move in these heels with the vision I've got, and I don't really want to hire a studio for this, but hey, you still get the general effect. Considering the terrible vision and entire separate head on my head, it was surprisingly easy to move around in. Like, I can definitely see myself taking this to a convention at some point. Maybe after a few upgrades just to make it look a little bit more finished and neat. Well guys, what could I say? You all saw the thumbnail, you knew we were in for a bit of a silly one, and I regret nothing. Like, it does look a little bit awkward, but when it's moving around, you can kind of see the illusion. It's a bit of a scrappy one, I don't care, I had a great time, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching it too. A huge thank you to my ultimate supporters on Patreon: Artemis, Michael, Mohican Creates, Residual Images, Robert Mischief, Vera Lynn, and Yuri. And a huge thank you to these other amazing Patreon members who are on screen now. You guys should come and join us over on Patreon. I post previews, work in progress, and exclusive mini videos that you can't see anywhere else. Like this one making Fizzaroli's hat, or this one upgrading my vampire ball gown, or this one making some weird neon demons. For that one, I even hosted a competition where I gave away the horns to some lucky Patreon members. So the link, if you want to join us, is down below. But even if you're here liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing, all that good stuff that keep the YouTube robots happy. You are helping and supporting me. So thank you guys very much for being here, and I'll see you next time. Bye!